before we get too far along, we are still trying to work things out where we can broadcast these meetings. We do have a Zoom meeting in progress here. Unfortunately, at this point, I'm not much of a Zoomer, and I'm not sure everybody can get a large screen view of what's going on, but they should be able to see a smaller screen view, and they should be able to hear. In terms of hearing, the big complaint here has been for people that they can't hear what's being said. I am hopeful that this particular microphone will fix that. If not, be patient with us. If you're out there, we'll try something else next time. I would like to ask if anybody comes to the podium to speak directly into the microphone so that we can have the best chance of picking this up where people can hear what's being said. So with all those various Zoom disclaimers, we'll call the meeting to order. Karleen, would you do our invocation for us, please?
Lord, we thank you for the opportunity today to serve this beautiful community. We pray that you would give us wisdom during this meeting, that you would guide our decisions and our steps. And Lord, we pray for peace. This is a community of loving, kind people, and we pray that we would each respect each other and speak of kindness and with heart and thought of who Gilmer County is. I also pray for peace in this country, Lord, in this country and the whole world, that you would just be with those, be with our leadership across this country and across the world. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nothing personal, Robert. Anybody have any changes to the agenda? Not, I'd make a motion that the agenda be approved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Brings us to citizens wishing to speak. Before we get started, I'm going to ask that anyone that does wish to speak, come up to the podium, state your name. You don't have to state your address, but you're free to do so if you'd like. And speak directly into the microphone. There's a couple of things I'd like to clear up before we get going too far into this citizen speak. What we're going to be talking about tonight is the possibility of a moratorium on new, larger subdivisions while we have some studies completed by the Northwest Regional Commission and the DCA. I think the way this was worded and several of the things that have gone out, it makes it sound like we're doing a moratorium on building. We are not. This is not a moratorium on building. We've got several thousand building lots in subdivisions that are available right now for anybody to build on. We've got more that are kind of coming down the road that have been approved, and we'll be seeing them come online. And also, at any time, this only affects subdivisions. At any time, anybody can go out and buy themselves a acre-and-a-half R1 lot, find a builder, and build a house. We're not concerned with people who are doing that. What we're concerned with is we want to just make sure that where these things go, especially these large thousands of acre ones, are in places where our infrastructure, and particularly our roads, can handle it. So these folks with the state are kind enough to help us out. They're gonna come out and do the studies, traffic studies, growth studies, road studies, see how we're doing with our comprehensive plan, where the growth could go, where it shouldn't go, and they're gonna help us out with all that. So that being said, I will open the floor at this point for anyone who would like to comment one way or the other.
Well, someone's coming up. May I ask, Charlie, do you
Sure.
know, that's the first I've heard of this study, so do you know when that's happening?
I spoke with Lloyd Frazier at the region last week, and he is going to, or probably already has, contacted DCA. That will be, I can't think of his name right now, but they've already got the person picked out. Ethan Calhoun. So Ethan will be making contact with us, and we'll be getting that started just as soon as he can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll open it up for anybody that would like to speak.
Joanne DePlanky. I just have a couple of questions before we get started, because I think it would help everybody if they understood. First of all, is there a length of time on this moratorium? Is it 1 year, 10 years?
What we're going to be discussing initially will be for 9 months. We are hoping that all the studies can be completed within that time. If they are not, we have the option of extending it another 3 months.
Okay, and is there a size on subdivision? I mean, is it 100 lots? Is it 500 lots?
Well, that's one of the things we want to discuss. My feeling is probably 25 lots, but
that's open for discussion?
it's open for discussion, yes, ma'am.
How will that be decided? I mean, will we take a vote tonight, or?
Well, we'll have to take a vote tonight if we implement it, and I'm hopeful that we can implement it tonight. So,
Okay, so people can say what number they would prefer?
certainly.
Well, I would say it needs to be more than 25, so 50.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Misty Dove. I came Thursday and spoke a couple of times on a couple of different issues. I live on Yukon Road. My concern with the explosion of building is the affordable housing, and I know that y'all have been discussing affordable housing. I'm not talking about necessarily great big apartment complexes. I'm also talking about starter homes for small families starting out, or families starting out, or people coming out of college, starting a career, starting out. There's nothing like that in this county right now. There's no $150,000 homes for families starting out. I have 2 boys that are getting out in the world now, and if they wanted to live in Gilmer County and buy something on their own, they would not be able to do that right now. And mind you, they work in a very necessary field, and it pays really great money, but they still wouldn't be able to afford it.
Yeah.
So I work for a social services agency that is in 10 counties in North Georgia. Every day we get calls for people who need a place to rent, an affordable place to rent. There is a 2-year backlog on the waiting list for the housing authorities in all 3 counties, Gilmer, Fannin, and Pickens. I'm turning people away. You know, they want me to help with their first month's rent. Can't help with the first month's rent when I can't find a place for them to rent. I've heard just this week of a camper that was for rent for $1,500 a month. It's just unreal the amount of money that is, and I understand why it's all that way. I understand it, okay? What I'm saying is, if people that work in this community cannot live in this community, they won't work in this community either. So all the people that work in your downtown restaurants, it's not the rich people working there, it's people making $7.25, $10 an hour. If they can't live here where it's reasonable for them to drive here, they will not stay here. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pete Burke. I first came here to LJ from Woodstock to the Apple Festival. That was back in about 1998. My first impression was look at all these cars at Apple Festival time. Look at all these food tents. Yum yum, Brunswick stew. So, it sounds kind of goofy, right? But that's how it was the first time I came up here and saw all the stuff that Gilmer County had to offer. I felt really goofy because I was doing stuff that I hadn't done since I was a kid. So over the years, we returned to the mountains many times with weekend getaways with friends who were lucky enough to have a cabin here. There wasn't many Airbnbs. In 2006, my wife Terry and I, we purchased a cabin in Western Gilmer that had just gone on the market an hour before. Needless to say, it checked all of our boxes. So we decided to put an offer in, and it was accepted. Since I was still working full-time in Marietta, it became our weekend getaway. The peaceful, tranquil mountain setting was just what we needed to decompress from stressful work weeks. Our grandchildren spent summers here, and we loved it. In 2015, we decided to move here full-time from Woodstock. Woodstock had outgrown its rural small-town beginnings, and the sounds and bright lights of Atlanta had caught up. Since 2015, we have watched LJ experiencing rapid growth that eerily reminds me of Woodstock. We have watched many of the old derelict houses in the county being refurbished and turned into Airbnb rentals that would attract visitors from all over. In the beginning, it was welcoming because we'd been through such a depression. But then the town started to look and feel alive, clean, and reborn. I loved it. This past year, we've had experience an influx of cabin renters and part-time owners wanting to be up here because of COVID. I get it. Just get away from the riding city, be up here. When we had first learned during this latest Renaissance period is that the Airbnb fixer-uppers used to be rented to our aspiring, mostly younger workers in the service industries. These people work hard, serving our meals for tourists and providing other critical skills. These are our essential people. These were the people that were living in them dilapidated buildings that got turned into Airbnb, but they could afford to rent, okay? It was the way it was. Things change, we know that, we understand that. But the problem was we took away a market that satisfied the needs of the town. Easy rental, cheap rental. So the workers' leases weren't renewed when the new owner started the repairs, and consequently, many of them had to find accommodations elsewhere. The housing boom's in full swing. More and more local workers found themselves looking as far as Chatworth or Dalton or Jasper to even find something affordable to live. In many cases, lifelong citizens have to move south to the city or suburbs to find any meaningful work and affordable rentals. LJ is considered a gateway city, but it also has a description of an edge city, where the people commute an hour or so to work, they don't think nothing of it, so they can live in LJ and work in Marietta or Canton. No big deal. If the city of LJ proper wishes to retain a small town feel, yet still be conscious of the needed change, the answer has to be come up with some viable solutions to the housing problem. Some have suggested rural backwoods community of tiny homes, which could be marketed to provide a low-cost solution to many workers. Of those workers who may be lucky enough to purchase a new home, many will vacate their current rental when the tiny house is built, thus leaving a vacancy for a new tenant, unless, of course, the owner turns it into an Airbnb rental. There are literally hundreds of people actively searching for any rentals within a low price range. The demand for tiny homes will intensify. Many of the workers who are struggling to get a down payment for a mortgage will be edged out by retirees from other states or counties trying to get out of paying high taxes and other liabilities. We're going to build an attractive mini city, a tiny home city, and everyone's going to flock here, and that's going to make us better? I don't know. So anyway, Investors will want to buy these and put an Airbnb market. Again, the cycle continues. So, we have a problem. People who come here once or twice fall in love with Gilmer County. A great problem, I think. In my humble opinion, if the City of the LJ, Mr. Mayor, and the Gilmer County Board of Commissioners can work with the community at large to come up with innovative solutions to affordable housing for workers, it goes a long way towards attracting and keeping citizens who want to invest in the community and raise a family here. Overlays and government subsidized housing come with their own unique issues. We can do better than creating housing projects that never really satisfy the need. Public housing creates neighborhood problems by concentrating mostly single-parent families whose children are generally at high risk of becoming drug users and high school dropout. The experts are all in agreement. It's not contested. They know that's what happens. So go look it up. As for the Gilmer County subdivision moratorium, this is needed to give us a pause to have the citizens decide the future of the county in regards to infrastructure improvements. Large tract subdivision with septic tanks and leach fields, that ain't good. We know that ain't good. Multiple, we're not gonna sit there and kill our rivers. Okay, erosion, poor drainage, it's gonna damage our roads, it's gonna create hazards, it's gonna increase car accidents, many lives will be lost, just by the law of averages. You got more people out there, you're gonna have more deaths. We have undeveloped subdivisions all over the county, and as your own estimate was, about 3,000 empty lots waiting for homes to be built. They're there. Why can't we come up with some solution to figure out how to develop these out? How to make some, can we make incentives? Is there things we can do that could say, yeah, let's go build there now. We didn't have a reason, now we have a reason. Is there something that can do to help clear out some of the backlog? I don't know. But we could go look at that, right? So we have a chance to make Gilmer County a model for how to manage growth in a calm, intelligent manner and not cave to the whims of those who've turned us into a circus town, complete with the monkeys and clowns. Just because the world is going crazy doesn't mean we should just roll over and accept whatever some particular group subscribes to. And while I'm at it here, the Gilmer County Board of Education is also on notice that many in this community do not prescribe to baseless theories and latest sex trends being pushed by Hollywood and the current administration. Many of us view this as unwanted government indoctrination of children to advance the liberal progressive agendas nationwide. And it has to stop now. Remember this one quote, and we in Gilmer County can achieve anything. Government is best when closest to the people. Yeah. Government is best when closest to the people. What this means to me is that Gilmer County and the city of LJ, government employees and appointees are beholden to we, the people. And if they understand what the majority wants, they must work tirelessly and with great integrity to give the majority what it wants. However, if they go against the will of the people, we shall hold them accountable under the laws as well as elections. Thank you.
My name is Keith Nunn. My company is Appalachian Supply Lumber Company. I guess my question is, I almost feel like the building industry is kind of being unjustly targeted here just for the reason, you know, our industry creates jobs. It doesn't take jobs away. And, you know, if we're really talking about the traffic, the problem the traffic is creating, has anybody done a study on, you know, how much traffic the new school has added out Yukon Road? If you've ever been by any of these countless number of wineries we have now, there's nothing but, you know, out-of-state tax and out-of-county tax that go there. And while there have been some large sales of subdivisions, 100s, 200s, 300 lots that I know of, just being tied close to this industry, the only one I know of, one of the largest ones might have 30 or 35 homes, you know, underway right now. And sure, all these lots are sold, but we're talking, you know, not 30 days. It could be 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 years before these are ever developed out. So, you know, I guess my question is, are we really, is the building supply industry really the problem?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Is the building supply industry, is that really the problem here? Is that what you feel like is causing, you know, your traffic issues here?
I don't believe that the builders are a problem. First of all, let me say that in my opinion, most of the folks that are developing these big, huge subdivisions, thousands of acres, are not local folks. They're not local builders. They're people coming in from Atlanta and other areas that are buying up property and are going to develop a subdivision and leave. However, more to the point, you were asking, have we done traffic studies? Have we done other studies? And we have not. And that's really kind of the point of all this, is to just hit pause until we can get these studies done.
Is it fair to say that, you know, these large tracts of land have been turned into individual lots? Does that not increase a large amount of revenue that each lot's being taxed now versus, you know, large tract of land? Is that not better for the county?
It does not produce that much revenue for the county, and that's... Okay. All right, let me explain. There's a thing called the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. It was established under Governor Perdue. The reason it was established was because there were some counties that were just growing leaps and bounds. The tax base one year over the following year would be tremendously different. But they would leave the millage rate where it was, and they'd get just a windfall of additional money coming in. And people got tired of that. They felt like if all this extra money was coming in, they ought to be able to reduce the taxes, some reduce the millage rate. What the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights says is that each year, when we have our tax base completed, we have to put that up against a formula from the state. That formula will tell us how much we have to reduce our millage rate, because we are not allowed to make more money this year in property taxes than we made last year. Now, this formula is not exact, it's not to the penny, so sometimes we do wind up a little over, sometimes we wind up a little under. But what we have to do is we have to calculate based on the state's formula. And we will say, here is our new rollback millage rate. This year, our millage rate was 6.785, I believe, mills. The millage rate that we've just adopted was 6.222 mills, about a half a mil lower than what it was before. The reason we did that was because we couldn't take advantage of the extra money that this was bringing in, because the law says we can't get more this year than last year up to a certain point. So when I say that this is not going to be a tremendous windfall for the county, I know it sounds a little absurd, but the state of Georgia tells us that we have two choices. We have to reduce our millage rate such that we don't make more than we did last year, other than the little leeway they have. Or we can leave our millage rate where it is, but it'll be a tax increase. And if we do that, we'll have to advertise in the paper that we're raising your taxes. We have to have the public comment sections. We have to go through the whole routine for a tax rate increase. One year we did that, and people about went nuts. You're raising our taxes, you're raising our taxes. Well, according to the state of Georgia, we were. But we weren't raising the millage rate, we were just leaving it where it was. We only did it to 1 year. This year we didn't do that. We lowered the millage rate so that we would take in actually less money than what we would have otherwise. So the valuation is what it is. It has nothing to do with us. Now let me say this about the evaluation. I don't know if y'all remember, about 3 years ago, the state of Georgia fined Gilmer County $192,000, I believe is what it was, because they come in every other year and they audit the assessments that the Board of Assessors come up with. And if they determine that it's too high or too low, we get fined. They have their formulas, and then the Board of Assessors have to go strictly by those state formulas. If they do not, and if they wind up just a little bit off with what the state figures everything ought to be, then we get fined. Now, in that particular situation, we signed, we agreed to a consent decree. And that was, if we would do a number of things, then they would waive the fine. Those things were buying additional vehicles for the Board of Assessors, adding additional people to the Board of Assessors, bringing in a private firm to help the Board of Assessors, getting a new flyover for the Board of Assessors. The thing is, and we did all that, and the thing was, if we did that, and if at the next assessment or the next appraisal time, we were meeting the state's guidelines, then we wouldn't have to pay the fine. We did all that, and we met it on the next audit. Here's the thing. It cost us more to do all that than it would have cost us just to pay the fine. The problem, of course, is if we just paid the fine, we wouldn't have fixed anything. So we spent more than what they were going to fine us in order to fix it. And we did fix it. The next audit we got was okay. So, I know people get upset about their assessments. My assessment went up just as much as all y'all's did. Assessments are based, just like in real estate, they're based on recent sales in the area and so forth. And y'all know how these sales have been going. People have been coming in and paying, $18 million more for a $200,000 house than they should. And they pony up the cash and pay it. And that makes all the assessments go up around it. We, and the commissioners here, we don't know how to assess your house. That's why we have a Board of Assessors. They go to school and they take the training and they put all the state guidelines in and they do a good job. They don't do a popular job, but they do a good job. The only way we'll know if y'all have been assessed too much is when the state comes in and does their audit and tells us that we've assessed y'all too high and now we got to pay another $192,000. Trust me when I say we don't want that. So we're putting in all the training, we're giving them all the training, we're giving them all the equipment, everything they need in order to do good, proper assessments. Are these assessments skewed? In my opinion, yes, because of the current real estate situation where you can just stick a number on a house and 2 days later you got it. By the way, that's not a bad thing for everybody if you happen to be the guy sticking the number on the house. But that's about all I can say on assessments. Yeah, your assessments were raised, but they were raised in accordance with the training that the assessors got. Now, I personally believe this bubble's going to bust. And when it does, you should see your assessments then start going back down, and we've seen that in the past too. So, about all I can say about that.
Thank you for your answer.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Enrique Bertrand.
I have lived in Gilmer County for 5 years. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to let us speak our minds. Being a man who was forced to flee my country because of communism, I am just so grateful to be able to talk to you and to see how citizens can talk to their government and back. And it is something that we should all cherish. I am here to urge you to please not only do 18 months, do 18 years. I have 3 big concerns. The first one is the lack of wastewater treatment plants in Gilmer County. How many thousands of septic tanks are we going to put in so they pump millions of gallons of partially treated wastewater into our groundwater? Groundwater follows the topography of the land. You build on a hill on top of a creek, that wastewater is going to end up in the creek. There's no question about it. Second, who is going to pay for the additional infrastructure? Is it going to be the residents, people who are living now? Or is it going to be the new residents or the builders? One solution is to create a community development district. So if you have 1,000, 2,000 acre farm that you're going to turn into a division, into a subdivision, make it a tax district. Calculate the cost of adding the infrastructure and force the people to buy a bond when they buy the house to pay for the infrastructure. Or have the builders put the money up and they charge the new homeowners with a bond that can be sold, and it will pass on with property if should the house be sold. It's been very successful in other states, and I don't see why we shouldn't do it here. And lastly, I share all of my fellow citizens' concerns about traffic, water, electricity, and schools. At this point in time, we are not equipped to become another Cumming or Woodstock. Let's plan it out. I think you guys have a great idea of doing some studies. And let's see what the studies say. But let's not rush. This is a historic moment for Gilmer. And you all are going to be writing that history. And I hope that 20 years from now, we can see it was a great decision that you made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Larry Rittenberry. I've been to several of these meetings, and every time I come to one of these meetings, they tell me to say my name when I come up here. There's been a lot of times that I was up here that I didn't know who I was talking to. So could you give me the same courtesy and tell me who all these people are that we're talking to?
I'm Hubert Parker.
Sir?
Hubert Parker.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Charlie Paris.
Thank you.
Karleen Ferguson.
Thank you.
David Clark.
Thank you. County Attorney. Yes, sir. Well, now we've got that out of the way, we can go on with my opinions
Yes, sir.
and my thoughts.
Yes, sir.
I've been in this county most of my life. I've seen it grow to where we had one red light to where it is now. It's a beautiful place to live, there's no doubt. No wonder people want to come up here and build a place. It's beautiful up here. But when you start talking about putting another 1,000 houses on another 200 acres, and I can't even go pick my grandkids up from school now because I'm afraid I'm going to get run over. I don't drive that well anymore. I'm getting a little older. So I got to keep a constant lookout to keep from getting run over just going up and down these roads. I bought a house 2 years ago down on Round Top. This is a true story. 2 weeks after I moved into my house, somebody put a sign up directly across from me and said, "Coming soon, 89 homes." Had I known that, you don't think I would have stayed at my little farm and kept raising my goats and chickens? But that's what's happening to the county. We're outgrowing ourselves. We're bringing so many people in. Drive out Round Top Road anytime. It's like old Highway 5 used to be, you know, the main drag from Marietta to Michigan. That's how Round Top Road looks now. Any day of the week, people running 65 miles an hour. They ain't slowing down for nothing. And all these houses that are coming in, you say the assessments are coming up on them. Everybody's paid at least $400 more on their property values. All right, I get it. We gotta have more money, more people come in, we gotta have more money. But what I'm not seeing is, has anybody been out Lower Carter Cay lately? How long has that bridge been out there? How long? How long is it gonna take to get that bridge fixed?
I wish I could tell you that.
I've been years waiting. I have to go 10 miles out of my way to visit my grandchildren.
Well, let's talk about that bridge.
I wish we would. Let's bring this back.
Let's do it. Every 2 years, DOT sends inspectors out to inspect the bridges.
Mhm.
And 1 year, they actually sent a diver down to look at the pilings for that bridge. He came back up. He called the road department. He said, "Block this bridge now, not one other car goes over it." So it was shut down.
What, 2016 was it?
I don't know, I'd say. I wouldn't argue the point. That's 16. Been a long time. At the time, we called an engineering firm in and said, "Well, how much is it going to cost us to fix this bridge?" And it was going to cost well over $1 million to repair it. And they said, "Now, once you do that, you're still going to have a 50-year-old bridge. You just have one that you can travel over again." Their recommendation was to replace it. Well, it didn't really much matter because we didn't have $1.5 million. So we, at that time, the state of Georgia, the DOT, had just initiated a new program to replace bridges in the counties in the state of Georgia. They had, in fact, contacted us to say that they would like to replace the wooden bridge on Vanilla Lane. And of course, we jumped all over it, said, "Sure, go ahead and do that." The deal was they would replace the bridge. We would pay 1/2 of the cost of whatever additional rights-of-way they had to get. They would cover everything else. So I called them up, or wrote them a letter actually, and asked them, "How about let's put this bridge on the bridge replacement list?" And I got a nicely worded letter back, nicely worded letter that said no. And one of the advantages that we've got is we do have the Speaker of the House as our representative. So we contacted him and said, "Can you help us out here?" We got a letter a while back, a little further down the road from DOT. He said, "Well, we've decided we will put this bridge on the replacement list." And they put it on the bottom of the list. So we asked them, would they put it up to the top of the list? And they very nicely said no. So we asked for help again. And it got moved up pretty close to the top of the list, I guess. Here's the thing. We all know this work is being done out here, coming out 515, where the new roundabout is. You know how long ago that was approved?
About 8 years.
About 18.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we got different stories then.
Well, maybe, and I wasn't here at the time. I'm just
Okay.
telling you what the story I was given. But I can tell you this. We have been in constant contact with DOT. We need this bridge to be replaced. Well, we've got it scheduled for such and such. We got it scheduled. And then next thing we know, it's been pushed out. The last thing they told us was that it's scheduled to let the bids on June of '22.
Will be bid then.
That it would be bid.
Okay.
Well, then we find out that, well, yeah, they're planning on doing that, but they haven't funded it yet. And the actual date that's being put on their records is 2025 instead of 22. The price for that bridge has escalated rapidly.
Just like gas.
I'm sorry.
Just like gas, it keeps going up.
Yeah. Well, there were other problems with this. The new bridge can't have pilings. It's gonna have to span. And so you know what that does to the price. Can't have pilings because we have the gold line darter in the river. And let me say this, if anybody from U.S. Fish and Wildlife ever says to you, you've got the gold line darter here, do not say, I've got an ultralight rod and reel at home and I can take care of that. Because they have no sense of humor. But anyway, because of that, we've got to do a spanning bridge, and because it's got to be a spanning bridge, it has to go up higher. Current best estimate for that bridge is between $3.5 and $4 million. Now, the thing about that is, we can get upset and we can say DOT's just too slow, we're gonna do it ourselves. Except we don't have $4.5 million. And if we did have it, I bet you about 95% of everybody in here would be saying, put it on paving our roads and that sort of thing. But they have agreed to replace it. They're still saying they're going to replace it. We are at their mercy as to when they're going to replace it. And the only alternative we have to that is to do it ourselves, and we don't have that kind of money.
Yeah, but we got 1,000 more houses coming in out there in Yukon somewhere.
Yes, but
and
it's-
1,000 families are gonna put in their, well, I forget how much my tax bill was this last year.
As you've just heard, that's not going to
It
increase.
keeps going.
And
How
it's
are
not-
you gonna make me understand that if I've got 1,000 acres down on 136, that's nothing but trees, and I've got it in conservation, and I've got it in every covenant that I can get on it. I turn around and I sell it to 1,000 people. They put 1,000 houses on there, and they're paying for a residence in an R1. You gonna tell me that there's no more money coming into the county by doing that?
I won't tell you there's no more, but there's very little.
Okay.
The formula that we use comes from the state. And because that's not exact, because it's not gonna get down to the penny, we're talking about a tax digest of over $1 billion here. You're not gonna be able to put this down to the penny, so there's a range on that.
So, let me ask you another question.
Yeah,
How are we gonna keep up with all this growth if we can't raise the millage rate? If we can't bring in more money, how are we gonna be able to keep up all these other people? Because we're gonna need hospitals. Anybody been to the Gilmer County Hospital lately? You seen it? Tell me where it's at. We ain't had a hospital in a while, and I'm getting old and I might get sick. The road.
if you wanna have a conversation about the hospital, we could do that.
I understand, that's public, I understand. But there's lots of things in this county that's gonna have to grow with the population. I don't see it growing, sir. I appreciate your time, appreciate you answering, and I appreciate the introductions. But,
Yes,
things,
sir.
something's gotta be done. We
I
gonna have to keep up.
I
We gonna have
absolutely
to
agree
keep
with
up.
you.
Thank you
But-
very much.
Yes, sir.
My name is DeVale Frady. I've come here tonight to ask the commission, Lord, to drop the moratorium, to vote no for the moratorium. I don't really understand what the real problem is. We have went through this before. In 2006, there was developments everywhere and it's killing the county and so forth and so on. In 1986, a guy that wasn't from here, that had nothing to do with our county, moved here and developed 7,000 acres I think 5,000 acres, 7,000 lots. 35 years later, that is 18% built out. All these lots all these developments that we're seeing right now that's being developed by people that we say we don't know and they're out of town people, well, everybody's from out of somewhere. All that being said, all those lots, where is the construction? Where are the families and the cars and the people? They're not. They're just empty lots. And I can prove that. They're not massive infrastructure that we cannot handle the impact of the roads. Kusawati has 7,000 available lots, 1,800 of those are built on. It has never really impacted the roads of Gilmer County drastically. There's been some over time. But where is the massive growth of all these available lots? And they're all sold, in case you're wondering. Builders don't even have the right to buy them. They're all sold. But those people that bought them, some of them will lose them in foreclosure, some of them will never build on them, some of them will sell them, but it'll take years and years to build those out. And if someone came in and developed another 5,000 acres, it's not like that those 5,000 acres, which could be developed into I don't know how many lots, depending on how that laid, but let's assume 4,000 more lots. That doesn't mean all those houses will be built. There's nobody pulling permits in this county now. Where's the permits to support the fact that we think this massive growth is? In 2006, this county, the people of this county, the builder of this county, the people that were wanting to build a house pulled 638 permits in 2006. In 2021, we have pulled 226. How long have those empty lots been sitting out there, vacant? Keith Nunn just said they might be 30 houses going on in all these new developments, all this vast land. They're developing this land and they're selling it to people that will probably never use it. And I'm not here to sell you that. There's proof. There are no building permits right now being pulled to build those houses on those 1,000 or so lots that are available. And if someone come in and said, we're going to develop 5,000 acres, what would that really change? The traffic we see on the roads is mostly from the concentration of all the schools in one location. You say, well, the traffic on the 4-lane, the traffic on the 4-lane on Friday evening, I can't even get back to my house. More than half of those are going north. Fannin County, which receives them well. Hiawassee, on and on and on. Y'all know, part of them is coming here, but these are people that don't live here. They just stay here. Most of the houses that are built here are weekend houses. Some of the houses we build won't be visited 5 or 6 times a year. It's not like that. We are overcrowding with houses. The population of this county is still less than 45,000 people. In 2006, I was told we were in a mad panic. The commissioners were trying their best to stop the growth. We've got to stop the growth. We're projected to be 44,000 people by 2010. It is 2021. There's still not 44,000 people here. That growth never came. Charlie just alluded to the fact that this economy can't hold up forever, and it can't, and everyone in this room knows it can't. There's a bubble going on just like there was in 2006. It will burst. Hopefully it won't be as bad as it was the last time. Hopefully we'll survive. That being said, all those empty lots out there that people rushed in and bought, and banks have mortgaged, probably half of them will be for sale for half price when the bank gets a hold of them. Well, at some point, all places either grow or die. That's just life. That being said, I was 30 years old before I could make a living in this county. And I've been in this county 57 years. I was born here. I've been in this county 57 years. I was 30 before I could make a living here. I would like to think there's a place here for my children to be able to make a living. But if we squash what we can do here, then we're done. Thank you.
DeVille, before you leave. One question I have is if none of this is turning into building and additional people, then what does it hurt to take a few months and do some studies?
Well, as I think, that's a domino, or it has a domino effect. We stopped it. We're right in the middle of our economy. Everybody knows it. Housing is selling great, getting more for them than we ever have before in our lives. Everything is good up to a point. Now we're wanting to stop that cycle, put the brakes on, stop. That slows things down. That's the economy. The economy starts cooling off. It's going to cool off anyway. Why stop it now? Why not let nature take its course? That being said, when somebody pulls up to your property to build a house for you, behind that person is probably 100 more people. A lot of them subcontractors, heat and air conditioning people, plumbers, electricians, landscapers, on and on and on. There's probably 100 people behind that builder. All of those people have mouths to feed. Those people are probably making $25 an hour. That may not sound like nothing but peanuts to you, and that's probably good money to them. But they all have family to feed. I was 30 years old before I could make a living in this county. Why squash the opportunity we have now? Thank you.
My name is Kyle Haney. I'd like to speak on behalf of agriculture today. And I hope that as moving forward, that you emphasize putting a protection on our agricultural lands here in Gilmer County. I work with farmers all across the state for my job, and we are seeing this occur all across the state, losing agricultural lands to either commercial development or residential development. And once these lands are gone, we don't have any more of these lands to be able to turn it back into agriculture. Right now, Georgia is the 5th highest state in the nation losing farmland. And every day in the nation, over 2,000 acres are lost to development. We have a growing population, and we're going to need to be able to feed this population. We need the ag land to be able to feed it. Agriculture is not only important because it's where our food comes from, even though so many of our residents are disconnected from agriculture and think that food just comes from the grocery store down the street, and don't realize it comes from farms. But not only does it feed us, it also drives us economically. Here in Georgia, the ag industry is the #1 industry for the whole state, and 1 in 7 Georgians work in agriculture. Here locally in Gilmer County, it brings in, this is just for the farm products produced here in Gilmer County, $199 million every year. That doesn't count the transportation, the marketing, or all the other industries that support agriculture here, that have jobs for Gilmer County families, to be able to support their families. Tons of businesses, whether it's the meat processing, whether it's tractor companies, hardware stores, feed and seed stores. Countless number of businesses rely on agriculture, and we cannot afford to lose this land. So I hope that as you move forward, that you'll put an emphasis on protecting the land and making sure that development does not occur on agricultural land, so that way we have an economy that is driven by agriculture, which it always has been, and can support the livelihoods that it has for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jerry Maddox, and I live in Carter Lake Estates. So I live very close to the new subdivision or the land disturbing or whatever going on at 136 and 382. I attended the meeting last Thursday night. It was interesting. It's the first time I've been to a zoning meeting, planning and zoning. And I was not part of the red shirts. I came to talk a little bit. So I'd like to that I've said, and I studied the, somebody brought up the Gilmer County Comprehensive Plan from 2020 to 2024,
Right.
which I believe, just on my inexperienced reading, we're not following it. And I've also done more research and found the Northwest Georgia Regional Commission document. I'm not sure the date of that, but we're still within it because it went up to 2025, and we're not doing that either. We're not doing what we said. The vision laid out in the comprehensive plan was adequate and attainable housing for all citizens. Okay? And I'm not against the builders because I've been here about 7 years, and I think your moratorium is good in that it will give us time to pause and come back and do some of these surveys and do some of these studies that we've said. But like the place that's going in, and nothing against Creekside if anybody's from Creekside, but the starting price for 3 acres is $20,000. How many people working out here at minimum wage or even $15 an hour can go in and buy an empty lot, afford it for $20,000, and then put their septic tank in, put their well in, and build a house? They have to pay for all of that in a short period of time if you're going to build a house. That's not attainable and affordable housing for the population of Gilmer County.
But is there a government solution for that? And should there be?
Well, the government has butted in on all this already with planning and zoning, and I am not a big anti-government person. I'm an accountant. That's what I did for a living for 50 years, 40 years. I believe there are solutions. I believe we haven't even talked about them. The studies are apart. One gentleman came up here and talked about basically an impact fee. I don't know how you can calculate that because I don't have the information, and the information that's on the web is very limited on all of this, including the water study reports that say we're polluting Coosawhattie and the river and the streams and all the creeks that flow into it, on which this one will be. This is Talking Rock Creek. The one on 382 is probably Tails Creek. I don't know. That one's a little bit further away from me. But yes, there are things the government can do. And one individual I was talking to today who's much smarter than I am said, you know what? People moving in here for their second home or their retirement home, when you hit 65, you don't pay any school taxes.
Right.
Why? Why should somebody that's moving here at age 65 get that immediate benefit, yet we have to build new schools? They don't get anything from those people for the educational system, which I think is failing our children, just because I've worked with some of them. I think we're failing. We're not meeting our mission and our goal. So yeah, there's some things the government can do, and we need to look into them. One of the other things that part of the vision said guide future growth and conservation with informed land use strategies that take into account the fortification and wise management of the areas of our natural resources. Also says environmental and historical, but it says also in there that you're going to discourage residential sprawl into low density areas. Well, if 136 isn't low density, I don't know what is. That place on 382 behind the fire station is pretty low density. When I talk about all the other subdivisions that are still empty, they're low density. Why would you want to go in and put 1,000 homes on 136? There's no sewer, there's no water, it's a 2-lane road, and it's even further from the schools that we're building on Clear Creek. We have a volunteer fire station down there. We don't have police coverage. I never see a policeman down there. The only reason I see a
resident of Coosawhattie, also, as well as Enrique Bertrand, I serve on our board of directors of Coosawhattie, so I feel somewhat qualified to speak about Coosawhattie, which to me is kind of a microcosm of Gilmer County. It's been around for quite a while. The gentleman, about 3 speakers ago, was correct when he said about 7,000 lots or 5,500 acres and 1,800 homes. But that's about where, from what I heard, that he was right, stopped. Coosawhattie owns several of the lots. They are not owned by all individual owners. That's because we've had to buy a lot back. They couldn't afford it during when things were bad or whatever. But we have a lot of problems with our infrastructure. And we've had a lot of building going on in the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of building. We've got roads that are falling apart that we can't afford really to keep paved or to pave or repair, because we've got a couple roads that are so bad that we're having to pay to have engineers come out, give us advice, and set us up with who we need to go with to get those things repaired. We have a bridge that has to be inspected because that's about 50 years old. Sound familiar? I mean, all these things that Gilmer's going through, we're experiencing in there. Sewer problem, or not sewer problem, excuse me, but septic tank problems in the campground area that are going to have replacements, because those weren't designed for long-term people, but yet there are long-term people living there now. So a lot of things that are set up, we haven't done, probably when I say we, the board over the years hasn't done good planning and good follow-up and keep the infrastructure up with what needs to be going on. So having experienced it now, and the board we have now is working on that, my concern is for Gilmer County to allow all the building to come in fast and furious and not have the infrastructure to support that. That's my number one concern with that. And I offer our experience and what's happened in Kusawati as proof of what can happen. We haven't had near the building that is probably going on in Gilmer County, but we've got a lot of building. Yeah, there's a lot of them are second homes, but those people come up here almost every weekend. I know several of them. A lot of places have been turned into Airbnbs. There's a lot of rentals in there. They don't care about the properties because they don't own the properties. That happened. That's a negative also. So just want to offer us as a microcosm is what's going on with Gilmer.
Thank you, Dave.
My name's James Waters. I'm a builder here in LJ. Have been most of my life. I can tell the same story that Bill Frady just told. I'm 57 years old like him. I was 30 years old before I could earn enough to make a good living for my family. And my son-in-law, my brothers, their kids, all of them's in the construction business one way or the other. They're either in the water well business or the concrete wall business or they're pumping concrete. And if you cut the building off, if you just stop the moratorium, you say I'm only going to do it for a little while. But if you cut it off, you're taking our living away from us. And the talk about the septic tanks, get too many septic tanks in the ground, all that water doesn't go straight to the rivers. It evaporates up. The septic, I don't know the percentage of it, but the water in the septic system evaporates up through the ground. Some of it does, not all of it. Some of it goes back to groundwater. And DeVale said that there's been 240 building permits. The number, I'm not sure what he said in Gilmer County this year. So where is all the building again? I'm asking again, where is it all? Out of the 240, there's probably been additions to homes, remodel jobs, there's been permits pulled on. I checked with Amacola Power today. They have set 170 meters in Gilmer County year to date, 170. To me, that's not a big growth. A lot of the stuff I'm hearing from the people here tonight is stop it. Not heard a whole lot, but heard somebody stop the growth, stop it now. I just got here 5 years ago. I wanted to come here and retire, and I don't want nobody else to come here.
James, they say they can't hear you. Speak into the mic, please.
Okay. So what I'm hearing here some tonight, and I hear out in the community, is I just got here 5 years ago. I got here 7 years ago. I don't want nobody else come to LJ. Stop the building. Don't let nobody else come in. That's what I hear from I don't know if it's a group with the red shirts on. That's what I heard. So if I heard anybody's feelings, I don't really care. No, it doesn't.
Let me
At Easter, they was 35 members of my family at Easter. And if this goes through and you pull the rug out from the building,
let me say this.
Not 35 people won't be voting.
Let me say this one more time, though. The proposal is not to stop all building.
But it will. and they passed it. It took several years to get the impact fees has already been assessed here, to pay an impact fee for water meter, pay an impact fee for this. It was already done. It took us a few years to get the water authority to back off of that. And when they did, they were giving us water meters for $100 a piece to get the building to come back and start again. If you give it, just Charlie said it, this bubble's gonna bust. By the time you get this horse running wide open, the bubble may bust on you and you wish you hadn't done it. And that's all I do.
Hi, my name's DJ Carter. Can you hear me? No, better? Okay. I was lucky enough to grow up, live in Gilmer County my entire life, go to high school here, and I'm one of the few people that was able to stay in the area after graduating high school. My graduating class, probably 20% may still live in Gilmer County. Looking out at the room here, no offense, raise your hand if you're under 35 years old. 34. I've heard everybody in here speak to needing affordable housing. That's every single person that came up here said they needed affordable housing. We need affordable housing today, not a year from now, not 2 years from now.
What is your proposal to get it?
If you put a moratorium on developments today, that's one more year that somebody can't push forward to high density. Now, you can't build affordable housing. You can't build an affordable house on 3 acres of land in Gilmer County when 60% of it's national forest. We don't have enough resources. If you put this 1 year, 9 months, 1 year, that's one more year that we lose employees. Restaurants can't stay open because nobody can stay here and live and work. We've heard, let's see, the last 6 years, all I've heard is fight big government. Government needs to stay out of our lives, not tell us what we need to do. Now you're trying to tell people what they can't sell their land for, what they can't do with their land. The gentleman with the agricultural department, great thing. But let's say Mr. Hodge sitting here on the front row, and we'll point him out because I know him. Let's say that he has had 200 acres he's grown corn on his entire life. He can no longer grow corn. It's time for him to retire. His grandkids, they're not farming. Now he can sell his 200 acres for $4 million, more than he's ever been able to make growing corn. Who are we to tell him he can't do that?
Let me say that I grew up in an area where there was no zoning. I grew up with the philosophy of it's my land, should be able to do what I want to with it. I still feel that way to a point. And everybody in here and everybody in Gilmer County, I think, feels that it's my land, I should be able to do what I want to with it. And I won't argue the point. Until somebody wants to put a motocross track across the street from you. And then all of a sudden, that zoning looks pretty good.
Yeah, but if you already have a motocross track, who are you to tell somebody else they can't have one? You already have your home on the left side of the street. Now you're wanting to tell somebody else they can't put another home on the right side of the street.
The point of zoning is to protect property values and quality of life. In my mind, that's the only purpose for it.
And I'm not debating zoning, anything like that. I'm debating why are you going to stop growth?
I don't think we're going to stop growth.
That's directly what you're doing. You want to put a moratorium. You want to put a hold
On new
growth.
Developed subdivisions.
Which is growth.
Well, yeah, it's
So
growth.
you want to put a hold on growth.
I want to slow growth.
So you want to, that's your.
I want to manage growth.
So you want to slow more housing.
There's no point arguing with this.
Okay, I'll listen.
Whatever you say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Matthew Starks. I'm a builder, a developer, lifelong resident of Gilmer County. I got a call this afternoon talking about this moratorium, and I couldn't help but remember when I sell and build houses and develop some property for some, and I sell it, I don't believe I've ever sold a home to anybody that lived in Gilmer County, except for one or two close friends, and I built single-family houses for them. And that was years ago. So I feel like throughout the years, I've sold a little bit of piece of Gilmer County that I grew up in and loved every time I would do that. That's what the majority of us builders and developers have done. And anybody that has moved in here, you bought some of what we created for you. You're welcome. Okay? Absolutely, we created it. If you come in and build your house, congratulations.
No, thank you.
That's a wonderful thing. And we have a job, we're doing our job. There's rules set in place.
You made your money.
I'm speaking, you can get in line.
Okay, all of the speaking needs to be.
Talking to us,
So-
Mr. Chairman.
I'm addressing
Well,
the
yeah, but
problem.
we have to maintain the
Yes,
rules.
sir.
So, with that said, everybody that comes and enjoys the county that we live in wants to buy a piece of our sanctuary, our peace, and our joy of living here, the outdoors, everything that Gilmer County offers. And it's ironic that everything that we've been talking about, the streams are so polluted. Well, the county should probably stop the tubing companies because we're polluting the world. If you haven't been out 52 East and seen the massive amounts of tubers jumping in and out of our terrible, dirty rivers. That's some more bull that they're trying to feed us. That is what we're doing. We're selling a little piece of our county, little by little. I heard, the gentleman that come up here that was getting away from socialism, communism. When you start telling people what they can do on their land, that's what communism is. That's what socialism is. All right? We have rules in place. We've got Karen Henson in the Planning and Zoning Department. We've got the board that decides if a subdivision is going to be made whole, or we can't approve that plan, we got to come back and do this. We've got a wonderful health department that every time you go to eat somewhere here in this town, they went and inspected that to make sure, hopefully, it's safe for you to eat. There's some safeties already set in place. Those people are doing their job. They're working within the rules that they have been given. These subdivisions, let me ask you, these subdivisions that we're trying to stop for a small amount of time, 9 months, what do you think it's going to do to my 20-something lot subdivision? Thank you. You just made me more money. That's what it's going to do, because the prices are going to continue to go up. You're talking about slowing things and making it more affordable. When you shut off the availability for more homes to be built in this community, the prices go up. Supply and demand. Who wants to argue that? You can't argue it. That is a fact. With that said, I'm getting a little worked up here, I'll tell you. I have worked really hard in this community. And the gentleman that come from the ag department, I think it's a wonderful thing. I absolutely have an ag degree. I got a pre-vet degree in animal science. And the funny thing about, if we were in a different meeting, and I've been in these meetings as well with the board and other people, we don't want to build that chicken house near. I can smell that chicken farm. It sure does smell bad. The chicken trucks crapped on my car at the red light. But yet you want to take care of agriculture? But at the same time you want to do away with it. We need to figure out what fence and what side we're going to be on. You can't straddle it. You can't do one and the same on the other side. And people need to start realizing, the lady talked about the soils. polluting our rivers, go back to that. Anybody in here a soil scientist? Raise your hand.
You need to direct your comments to us.
Is anybody a soil scientist?
No.
None? I think we need to do a good job of listening to the experts. Those rules are in place. The setbacks from the river, how close you can put your septic tank to a well, whether this lot is deemed buildable or not. Can I build a 3-bedroom? Karen says, no, you can't, Matthew. Well, guess what Matthew has to do? Maybe build a 2. That's what we have to do to abide by the rules. The problem with this situation is this. Plans, and I'm talking about business plans, money has been spent, property has been purchased, and you want to change the rules after the ball's already been hiked. That's a problem. But we will always operate within the means that we have. And for example, the lady spoke about a volunteer fire department for, what was the name of that subdivision out 382?
Carter's Lake Estates.
Carter's Lake Estates. There's an old station there. But at the top of 382, there's another station there, station number 14. I happen to work at it. I'm a part-time firefighter EMT for Gilmer County as well, because I want to give back to my community. I'm not trying to build it and tear it down. I joined the fire department years ago because I wanted to help, and I see they needed help. And I'm proud to be part of it. That station covers that area. We've got some really nice, if you go out and drive around the community, some really nice fire departments out in this community protecting our community. That old fire department is absolutely for volunteers to come by, pick up a truck, and to help aid. But we absolutely have trained on-staff firefighters and EMTs covering your area. So feel a little safer about that. Because apparently, a few minutes ago, you didn't know you had some coverage by somebody that would and had been actively trained and trying to take care of you guys. And I got to tell you this, majority of the men and women in our fire department and EMS do it, I'm sure, for a little of the pay, but a lot of it is because they got it down inside them and they want to give back. There's a goal to serve for those people that do it. And I felt overwhelming to make it clear that you're covered. You got some of Gilmer County finest people covering your house. When you sick or you fall, or you catch a house on fire because you burnt leaves too close to it, we're covered. Okay? With that as well, the moratorium, I can't help but understand this is not something that was created overnight. And I don't think it's going to be fixed overnight. However, we've got a situation, we've got communities all around Gilmer County that had examples of this kind of growth. I don't think 600 permits in 6 to 200 now is what I would call growth. That's the funny thing about math, is it's absolute. You can't fake those numbers. With that said, it sounds like there's a little bit of slowing down. Even though it's in a boom, a lot of us took a pretty hard hit in 08 and 09. Some of you guys probably took advantage of the fact that we took a hit in 08 or 09. But we're still glad to have you. We want you to be a part of this community, not fight against us. Don't start the rules for thee, but not for me. And that has been a big focus here. For example, like the elephant in the room, we're talking about large developments. Everybody knows who's building these. These were not plans that were set up overnight. These things were set in place and property purchased years in advance. Millions of dollars spent. our infrastructure for Gilmer County, we've talked about a little roads, we've talked about our assessments, we've talked a little bit about everything. But we talk about homes, septic tanks, people that take it and live up here part-time. They have a home here, but they're not a burden on our infrastructure. Their septic tanks only get flushed twice a month. I built a house for a doctor couple out of Atlanta. They own their home 10 years and they visited it 3 times. They pay just as much taxes as their neighbor did. Their septic tank didn't get flushed nearly as much. We gotta be factual if we're gonna take a look at these numbers and just put a blanket over everything and say, oh, this is too much. We really need to take a good look. And I would talk to the commissioners. It's hard to stop a train, but when you get it stopped, it's hard to start back. I think the studies is something that we should be absolutely doing. I think it should be something we should have been doing. This building boom didn't start yesterday. I mean, I was lucky enough and blessed to be somewhat busy through 08 and 09. From then, it's just ramped up. It's continued on. And I'm blessed to have all that work. This ain't an overnight thing that had just come to Gilmer County. This subdivision, out 136 or 282 or 382, the county has known about this for years. We should have been planning prior to now. The subdivision that is on 282 has created some of this uproar. Is that right, Charlie? I mean,
Oh, well, yeah, but that's not the only thing. The other thing too that I probably should have emphasized more is that, anything that's in the pipeline is gonna continue to go on through. We're not gonna,
right.
shut down something that's in progress.
And I understand that, but I also heard in the same sentence, you also said, we tried to stop approving. You gotta give a good justification why you're stopping approving.
Well,
If Joe John a month ago got his subdivision approved, and he met all the level 3 soils, and we turned it in, and everybody's okay with it.
I think what I was doing was kind of arguing the point that we approve everything that comes through. What I said in terms of that is simply that we want to manage growth,
Right.
not stop growth, but manage growth.
So what I'm saying is, just that last gentleman's point, to manage it, you have to stop it for a short time, is what you're wanting to do, though. For example, if I bring you my plan for my subdivision on 28 acres next week, you're gonna turn me down.
If this goes through, yeah.
Then that's what I call stop.
Okay.
And unfortunately, just like some of the people that are out here in the crowd right now, they might not be able to buy a lot and come and enjoy some of Gilmer County like you guys are now. There's something to be said. You gotta be fair. That's all you gotta do.
Let me say too that I appreciate all that you said and all that everybody here has said. I don't want us to ever be in a situation where we start limiting people's time. But if we're gonna continue on with 30 or 40 minutes per person, somebody's not gonna get to speak.
I want to make a comment and mostly praise our environmental health department, who actually does a fantastic job for this county. Andrea works very closely with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources and EPD, and I spent an hour with her this afternoon questioning all of these comments of water levels going down or it hurting our soil and all of that. And she said, Karleen, it's just not true. It is, we work very closely with EPD and environmental health, with Georgia, the DNR. So she is on top of it. They are very aware of what can and cannot be done. I know that when you move from the city and a septic tank sounds scary, it sure did to me when I first put my first septic tank in. But there's someone watching over that whole area and making sure that our property and our soils are in good standing, as well as our rivers, that we're getting better.
Thank you, Karleen, for saying that. I don't know I'm going to be up here twice, so I'll keep this very short. Thank you, Karleen, for saying that, because that is actually what was on my mind at this time. As far as everybody being afraid of the fact that we're putting so many septic systems in, that is state mandated. We have a state paid employee working in the county that actually physically sees every septic system that's put in. It is, you cannot cover it up until it is. It's Andrea, of course, and she is awesome, and she makes us go by the rules very closely. To this fine young gentleman, or fine gentleman that I don't know where he went, but he said he worked in Kusawati. Well, the thing about Kusawati is, yes, it was poorly planned and the infrastructure's falling apart. There's no doubt about that. It was poorly planned, but at that time, the county of Gilmer had absolutely no control of developers and could not oversee anything. And so the developer had the right to do as they please, build the roads where they wanted, at the width they wanted to, so the infrastructure is falling apart. But that's not true today. We have Jim Smith that says it's got to be this way and makes us build subdivision. So the infrastructure, the modern subdivision is not Kusawati, and it's not like that we're overbuilding the infrastructure of the subdivision because they're highly regulated. Also, too, one more time, I would like to ask you to drop the moratorium, take up zoning. Take up high-density zoning, and let's have a serious discussion about that. Everybody here tonight has said, well, we need more affordable housing. Without high-density zoning, that's not going to happen. But the same people that want to fight new development and new subdivisions is also going to fight high-density zoning. How are you going to house our dental hygienists and teachers and the waitresses and the people that work for me? How are you going to house these people? Also, to address somebody's comment, the builder made money off the house, sure he did, but how many mouths got fed during that process? I know from my standpoint, like I said earlier, we bring at least 100 people with us when we build a house, and there's little mouths behind that. All those mouths get fed. That's where the money goes. It isn't all going in the builder's pocket. And as Matthew said, when you stop the train, it's hard to start back. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Watley, and I'm not afraid to say my address, 76 Brumby Trail in the county of Gilmer. Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the dais, staff, my first house I had for 15 years was in Kusawati. And anybody knows the historic issues with Kusawati, it started around 1977, 78, and there really wasn't any control then on that. But I believe the population of Gilmer at that time was 8,000 people. Pretty, that's not a lot of people. And most of those lots in there, yes, Kusawati does own, but a lot of them are not even, you're not going to build a house on a lot of those lots in Kusawati. It's not happening. I was very fortunate. Now, I sold that house and I did a new build, and I'm going to tell you something. That build that I did off of Yukon Road, I don't know any thanks to that builder because I paid him. He got all of my money. It was a fair contractual deal. So I don't need to look to the crowd and say thank you. We had a deal. I paid the guy. He built my house. He went on his way to go build some more houses. Kind of a nice concept, that contract. Now, getting on to the commission here, I'm going to do this little comparison. I'm going to keep, I know you're looking to cut it down. The county commission, and I see some of my planning and zoning friends over there, sitting way over there. There's kind of a neat concept that goes on here because every one of y'all on the commission commission here, either, Mr. Parker, I know you were born here, you left for a while, for a long time and came back. Y'all relocated here. So y'all are kind of like transferees and you're on the board of commission. That's a great concept. Bet you don't find that in a lot of Georgia counties. But you're able to work with, and Mr. Walker will let you know, every planning and zoning commission, that he's a native.
That's right, I'm proud of it.
That's right. That's right. And I don't mean that facetiously, but then I also know everybody's age and how long they've been there. Because it's brought up, how long you've been here every time I'm a public speaker. So, y'all are able to actually mesh with natives, homegrown, and your transferees. Well, that's what's happening now with the public. The public now is actually meshing. Some of the relocators, some people call them halfbacks, some people, there's different names that the locals give them, but the locals are actually meshing with the people that have relocated here for a purpose and a cause. You're hearing non-regional accents come up here and kind of have put a moratorium, then you're hearing regional accents come up here and say, let's do the moratorium. So, I do believe, and I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, I think you'll need to do this. I think it needs to be well thought out. How many are, within a certain subdivision, anything's in the pipeline, hey, you gotta be fair. They gotta proceed forward. They've already been approved.
Right.
So, then it's just up to y'all to just refine it. But whatever decision y'all make tonight will define you down the road. Your legacy. It doesn't even make it the motion. That's a possibility. You can call for a motion and nobody says second, and you can stop right there. Or you can have a yay, or you can have a nay. Whatever you have on your vote. But just remember, each one of you, and I know two of y'all are up for re-election coming up next year. Mr. Parker, I think it's 2024. Just remember, all the great things that y'all have done, y'all have done some pretty good stuff, because I voted for each and every one of you, more than once, on a couple. Oh, wait. So, anyway, y'all just know that no matter all the good stuff that you've done, something tells me that this will be a defining moment for y'all, this particular night down the road. So, just keep that in mind. Please keep Gilmer rule. And my vote for y'all is let's just put a hold on it for a while. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kimberly Reckless. I live here in Gilmer County. I just want to make a couple quick points before I start. Several hundred acres of Creekside Crossing was just approved for rezoning from Ag 1 to R1. So that will not be one house for every 3 acres. That'll be one house for every 1.5 acres. So I just want to make that correction.
No.
You may not have approved it, but the Planning and Zoning Board just did. Okay, that was one correction. I hope you will consider that when it comes before you in the next general session. I've never engaged in any discussion about stopping building. I've never engaged in discussion about stopping real estate or land sales. I have never opposed affordable housing. We need it. My friends will come up and speak for it and call for it. I'm not opposed to discussions about affordable housing. This nation needs it. This county needs it. The city needs it. Nobody has any qualms with that. But the current rate of inflation and the current market demand says it's simply not feasible. The market says it's not. Not me, not my friends. I understand today's special session, the special meeting to be focused on a single issue, a moratorium on subdivisions. I'm transitioning to another topic. In the planning and zoning meeting I've attended, planning and zoning meetings I've attended, the board has never offered to show meeting attendees the plans before they vote. We don't have any idea what they're voting to approve or deny, or what's on the agenda, other than what's on the agenda. On one occasion, Director Henson was kind enough to retrieve plans and show them to us after the board had voted to approve. It would be helpful if plans were made available 30 minutes before planning and zoning meetings for public viewing, not after. Also, a challenge to the public is that, as you said, Chairman, is sound. I realize this is a jury assembly room and not the official county commission space, but there ought to be mics at each occupied seat when the Planning and Zoning Commission is in place. Not being able to hear what is being said as board members huddle around plans we can't see, it keeps the public in the dark, and it establishes distrust. To offset costs as much as possible, I feel like the audio upgrade is called for. Perhaps this board will consider using some of the available CARES funds the county is sitting on to upgrade government to public communications. This upgrade would be beneficial when and if we have another pandemic shutdown to allow viewer participation and interaction. I feel like that falls within what would be appropriate use of the CARES funds. I also request that you consider digital storage of proposed in-process and approved plans, plats, and applications for public access in case planning and zoning has to close offices due to the pandemic again. In this instance, as the other, I think CARES funds would be appropriately applied to offset costs. I request that the non-existent portions of meeting minutes also be made accessible to the public with ease of a click. I'd like to move on to the subject of overdevelopment now, AKA the destruction of our rural mountain town. Allow me to read a definition here for you that we all need to familiarize ourselves with. Gentrification. It's a noun. It's the process whereby the character of a poor urban, or in our case rural, area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing and attracting new businesses, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. At present, Gilmer County is being redefined by investment portfolios and wealth managers. Our land and properties here are merely a safe deposit box for developers and real estate investors who have no concern for our culture, our history, or quaintness other than using it as a marketing tool and a tax haven. Wealth managers are creating limited liability investment partnerships, LLCs, to buy large swaths of land. Then creating another LLC for clear cutting land and selling timber. Then creating another LLC to develop that land. And then another LLC to build subdivisions, and so on, and so on, and so on. And thanks to loopholes, they will pay little to no capital gains tax when they do so, provided they leave their money on the table for a few years. Our well-meaning Chamber of Commerce, which has done a phenomenal job of luring new business and wealthier people, has brought upon us the unintended consequence of drawing national attention from opportunistic yuppies, weekend warrior types who are buying up homes left and right. Homes that used to be long-term rentals and making them short-term rentals. These opportunists of course think they're doing us a favor by revitalizing Gilmer County when what they're actually doing is building personal wealth and displacing our labor force, unintentional gentrification. Our local renters, our labor force, are also being displaced by ambitious private investors, fixer-upper house flippers, who are approaching landlords offering top dollar to buy their time-worn homes. Who can blame landlords for being unable to resist the temptation of the offers being made? Those homes once renovated aren't being rented to long-term folks here, our local workers. They're attracting wealthier folks who can stomach the overpriced homes, or they're being put in short-term rental programs. This hot housing market has created an unaffordable housing crisis. This is not helping our locals. As a result of unaffordable housing, we are now experiencing a labor shortage. The federal extended unemployment stipend only exacerbated that labor shortage because there was just no incentive to get back to work. But that program ended on July 1st of this year. Those who are fortunate enough to have held on to housing are starting to return to work. I continue to watch the trend. I digress. Additionally, our fixed-income elderly veterans and low-income individuals who cannot afford rent increases, who depend upon having a pool of rental homes locally, are being displaced. They too are being forced to leave Gilmer County in search of housing. If that isn't textbook gentrification, I don't know what is. The solution for our labor and housing shortage is, I've heard being kicked around recently by well-meaning individuals, is apartments. The notion that apartments will solve the affordable housing shortage is just more bad problem solving between unelected boards, landowners, real estate agents who want to get on the development action when the getting is good. These folks can't see the forest for the trees, and the dollar signs hanging over their eyes are not helping any. If we build 300 apartments, 500 apartments, 1,000, we're just going to end up with more people who can stomach and afford hyperinflated rents moving here, not more locals provided with affordable housing. In fact, we may find ourselves with a shortage of jobs with more people moving here that in turn would result in the Chamber of Commerce out of necessity pushing harder to bring more businesses, and because they're good at what they do over there, very good, the cycle will never end, and we will end up like Kennesaw, Roswell, Town Lake before we know it. Blue Ridge has yet to abandon the build our way out of it approach. They are on the brink of losing their rural identity altogether. Estimates are 20% of our population lives in abject poverty. Many live on fixed retirement pensions, disability, social security income. Most wouldn't even qualify to rent apartments by corporate managed apartment standards. Furthermore, apartment management companies decide who they will lease to. They decide, no doubt, will no doubt decide to choose to rent to professionals moving up from Atlanta over local chicken plant workers. We cannot control rent pricing for apartments either. With the current demand looking at other nearby towns, $1,300 to $1,500 a month would likely be the minimum starting price for one bedroom, 800 square foot apartment. That is certainly more than the average Social Security or veterans' monthly income payment. Apartments would arguably be unaffordable for them, and not just them, most of our folks living paycheck to paycheck too. I've heard it said in previous meetings that apartments will be affordable because a particular developer, builder, may be able to build at a low cost of $500 per square foot. I hate to be a Debbie Downer here, but the cost to build will not reflect in monthly rents charged. Such a proposed notion is preposterous. Developers and builders aren't managers. Developers and builders don't set rent prices. The market does. And property managers charge accordingly, and the current rate starts at $1,300. Unless we get the state and federal governments involved to establish rent assistance through Section 8 vouchers or other state and federal subsidies, we could not make rental apartments here affordable. I think we can all agree we don't need to start that dance with the devil. We've got enough problems with the Opportunity Zone program as it is. Folks here don't want federal government in their backyard, and they're not shy about saying much about that either. And do we think Section 8 would be a lure for more low-income folks to move here? No, thank you. We've already got our hands full. So apartment complexes are not the solution either. The only way to stop this gentrification is to stop what's driving up housing prices. The lure of developers and builders and massive subdivisions to an area where we are broadcasting, we are welcoming uncontrolled growth. A board that will literally pass a subdivision put in front of them without requiring impact or feasibility studies or any investment into infrastructure, quality of life, or services for our community. And no impact fees are being imposed on a lucrative short-term rental program being driven by an overzealous tourism board with a lot of money to spend. Imposition of impact fees on developers from wealth funds to small boutique house flippers and investors in short-term rentals, fees payable to the Chamber of Commerce, but not the county, needs to happen like yesterday. They ought to offset mounting costs of rapid growth, fund studies, and also fund infrastructure projects. To be clear, at present, 70% of every dollar that comes into our county for short-term rentals, hotels, and restaurants goes to the Chamber of Commerce, not into the coffers of this county. But what will stop the bulk of it in its tracks is a moratorium on new subdivision approvals for a period of time to be determined sufficient to allow the housing market to stabilize and conduct the requisite feasibility and impact studies. While we're in a moratorium, we might want to begin to address the impact multiple subdivisions already approved might have on Gilmer County. We heard about some of those tonight. There were thousands literally around our county. We need to conduct traffic flow studies for the challenges potentially that 2,000 or 3,000 more vehicles might present. We need to assess capacity of our county and city roads to handle the existing approvals. We need an impact of water wells on national water resources. Some of you may recall when wells and springs ran dry, and people were forced to tie into the municipal water at a cost of $1,500 per tie-in. Let's talk about the hospital. We don't have one. We essentially have a mini clinic. Bringing in thousands more people who without even having a hospital to serve them is malfeasance and gross negligence. Fire rescue stations and staffing services to serve a couple thousand more homes is going to be a challenge. Policing, the sheriff's department, I heard him in a meeting recently say that his office is short 8 deputies. The sheriff is already asking to install speed detection devices to ticket people who are speeding past schools because he lacks the requisite manpower. We have a growing narcotics problem. We have just last month they arrested at least one member of a Ghostface gang killers, or some name like that. Maybe you all heard. Our police force is already being stretched to its limits. We have no idea about the impact of runoff in our streams and rivers. Our power grid is fragile at best. Impact on wildlife is a concern as well. On top of a moratorium, which is what I consider a good start, there are some additional things we can do to find immediate solutions. We can identify ways to incentivize, perhaps, or encourage short-term rental owners to switch to long-term rentals. Incentivize landlord builders and individual investors to, instead of building that single-family short-term rental, maybe convert that home to a quad or a triplex. These are just a couple personal off-the-cuff ideas. They would obviously require more investigation and consideration. Again, just my ideas. I'm certain there are other ideas that can be brainstormed as well. I'm also certain we cannot build, develop, and advertise our way out of this, especially when building, development, and advertising are at the center of what is causing Gilmer's gentrification crisis. So let's keep Gilmer rural. Thank you.
These discussions to happen. I think that all of us in attendance here are very pleased to have this opportunity, so I just want to thank each of you for that. Secondly, regarding what Kim just said, ditto. At the last regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meetings, I believe, is it Kathleen?
It's Karleen.
Karleen, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You had discussed I believe it was the R3, and that there were several pockets already approved for those.
R3 and R4.
And that no builder or developer had applied for that at all.
Correct. That's the duplex and triplex and quads.
So something that could potentially be affordable housing, and none of the developers or builders have any interest in that. Tonight we've heard builders and developers talk about high density, subdivisions, lots of houses, supply and demand, and all that's great. But if the builders and developers want to be part of the solution, they need to look at the R3 and R4 that's already in place, already approved, and maybe take part in that as well as these huge subdivisions. And I want to thank the board for making it abundantly clear that that's what the discussion tonight is about, is a moratorium. I fully support a moratorium. I would support it for a minimum beginning period of 12 months. If it's going to take up to 9 months to get the results of these studies back, it's going to take the board time to review them, it will take the public time to review them. I'd start at 12 months, but that's me. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Waters, I'd like to come back up and just make a statement about the poor power grid that we have here. And I've heard this said a couple times in the past week, that our power grid is in shambles. It's not, we keep building another subdivision because we don't have the power to supply to it. Where do you get this data at? Do any of y'all know what Amacola is, about how big they are, how many meters they got?
That's not an argument that I put forth. I'm not familiar with it.
From a group of people this week, Amacola covers Gilmer, Pickens, part of Dawson, and a huge part of Cherokee County. They have 53,000 meters in place right now. This year, from January till today, they have put in 748 meters through parts of Cherokee County, through Pickens County, through Gilmer County. Our power system is in good shape. It can take as many homes as they want to put on it. That is fake, that's a lie, and if you can stand up here and say it, where's the data to back it up at? And I ask you again, do not do the moratorium on subdivisions.
Okay, since the line is gone, I'm going to assume that there are nobody else. So that being the case, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is a discussion of possible action on moratorium on subdivisions.
Mr. Chairman, how about a short break before we get started?
And we will take a 10-minute break, and then we'll go right into that. Thank you.
Thank you. I go one way.
Just a couple of comments here before we get to the crux of this thing. The commissioners, and this is regardless of what side they end up on this particular issue, this is kind of a general statement. You know, we're concerned, I think, that the current uses and the development trends in Gilmer County are not advancing the goals of the county's adopted comprehensive plan. And I think a lot of people here tonight have indicated that they feel that way as well. We're afraid that it could be having a negative impact on the economic health of the county. I know that there's a lot of folks who feel that any actions we take would have a negative impact as well. But for me, this is about preservation of the quality of life, provisioning services, not the least of which is fire and ambulance and so forth, first responders, and transportation infrastructure, which is probably one of the biggest things to me, and the effect that that has, the overall effect on the community as well. I agree with an awful lot of everything that's been said on both sides here tonight. I wish that this was one of the, I think once or twice since I've been in office, we've had clear-cut issues that everybody was on one side of, and they were pretty easy, and it was nice. That ain't this. Yeah, the old, good old days. There's been a couple of references here to the fact that I'm up for re-election, assuming that's the way it goes. This is not an announcement. But I will say that one promise that I made to myself, and more importantly, I suppose, to my wife, when this all started, was that if I ever found myself in a situation where I had to choose between doing what I felt was right or re-election, that I would do what I felt was right. In this case, what I feel is right is that we need to conduct these studies and that we need to pause for a bit while we do that. So, I am going to make a motion and then it'll be open for discussion here, assuming somebody seconds it. I'm going to be making a motion that we put a moratorium on large developments over 50 houses or lots for 9 months, during which time we work with the regional commission and the DCA to get current studies on our infrastructure, our roads, traffic studies, and an examination of our comprehensive plan and what we need to be doing there. So that's my motion. And hearing no second.
And I understand that we cannot discuss until there is a second, correct? I'll make a second for the purpose of discussion.
Okay. Okay, well, I've pretty much laid out mine, so this is open for y'all to discuss now.
The 50 lot exemption is new to me. I had assumed it was a moratorium across the board. That makes it a little more palatable. I heard from a lot of the builders tonight about a moratorium would cut down on building. I'm having trouble following that in that they are building on the lots that are available now, or some, they're building on some of them, but if you have the 50 lot exemption, it seems to me that would make it much more palatable. Mr. Chairman, is it unreasonable to reduce that to 6 months from 9? And that's just a question.
I don't necessarily think that would be unreasonable. It's at 9 just for no other reason than I have no idea how long it will take. We could make it 6 months as long as we understand that if it does take longer than that, we could potentially extend it.
I know how you will push to get it done in 6 months. I think it'd be much more powerful to everyone if you'd like to amend your motion.
I would be willing to amend the motion.
And I will second that and be quiet.
Well, we'll take an official vote yet. I'm not in agreement with this moratorium because I believe these, all of these testings and these with the regional commission can be done at the same time. I don't think we need to stop growth, stop building, stop anything right now. And that's knowing that our regional commission, we're very fortunate to have them. If we just follow our plan, then this would all be settled, honestly. But, and we are learning, and I mean, the planning commission, we're all doing a better job of focusing and paying attention, but that, our plan lays out a great path for us to stay agricultural and rural. And I don't think that our builders or anything, we've had a couple of, one in particular big builder that's done some big subdivisions. I don't think because these two have taken this and, you know, frightened us all, that it's worth hurting our other builders that could be doing smaller subdivisions or that had plans with other partners and builders. We need affordable housing. That's gonna take doing more volume in those subdivisions. And I think you're gonna be hurting us by putting this moratorium on our chances for affordable housing, because the prices will go up. And 6 months, unfortunately, I know all too well now how quickly the government works, and it is not fast. The fact that we can just ask Ethan, who does a great job, or whatever, I don't know how soon, now we have COVID coming back in, how soon that will happen of this testing and the surveys of the roads. I'm all for these. I think they absolutely should be done. They should have been done before, but I'm all for that part, all for it. I just am not for putting the moratorium on. I think it can be done at the same time without it.
Okay, Doyle, come on up.
I
clarify for someone, because our county, our team works so hard. Karen is our planning and zoning director. She does a great job, Karen Henson. If anyone, her office is open to the public every day, all the time. If COVID shuts something down and you want to see something, she will figure out a way to make it happen. I will guarantee you. But that office is open to the public to go in and look at any of these new plats, any of these new subdivisions, anything, anytime. She posts, check the paper, and if you want to just email her or ask her, or I'm sure it's on our county website maybe, or the planning and zoning website, of all of these new things. You can stay as informed as you want to be. It's really, the ball's in your court to decide to pay attention to what's happening, and then show up at the planning and zoning meetings continuously and make your voice heard. But anyway, I just wanted to give kudos to our planning and zoning department. Those folks in there work so hard to maintain our zoning, but also learning how this all, this season of growth is new to some of them as well. So, and that goes for our planning and zoning commission board. Did I say that right? Planning and zoning board. They do a great job, and wow, I don't know why they stay, but I'm thankful that they stay around. So.
Thank you, Karen, for addressing that. Charlie, my question, I guess, was to be directed more at you. So if you've made a motion for 6 months at 50 lots, who has the power to override that time?
If that time is approved by 2 of the 3 up here, I don't know of anybody outside the courts that could overrule it.
So it has to end in 6 months, is that what you're saying? That there's
You mean,
has the time, has the power to
I was going the other
override
way.
that
I thought you meant to try to shorten the time.
time? No, I mean, who has the power to lengthen that time?
That would be the 3 of us.
So that would be back before a public hearing, before you could
Correct.
lengthen that 6 months.
Correct.
And why 50, why not 100 lots, why 50 lots?
Actually, I started out at 25 and was asked why not 50, so.
I'm asking why not 100?
Well, you gotta stop somewhere.
100's a nice round number.
Well, it really is a matter of being able to build something that's affordable. I mean, you just cut that out from under us.
I'm not seeing the connection really between mega communities and affordable housing.
All the developers have told me it's about quantity or having that. Now, I'm not saying that the duplexes and tries, but I think we are hurting that chance of having an affordable community.
What they're telling me is it's about density and we need to up that 4 per acre, and I would never favor that.
No, I know, so.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just have a question I'd like to ask. I'm a resident of Gilmer County. My accent is not southern. I apologize for that, but I consider myself a Georgian. You mentioned, Commissioner, that you had a number of, in your plan, which you've spoken of and quite proudly, you said there were a number of R3 and R4 zonings that these builders that I hear speaking, why is nobody wanting to build duplexes and triplexes? Is it a money issue or what?
Profit margin.
I think the profit margin is not there.
Oh, well, if your goal is to bring affordable housing to waitresses and burger flippers and things like that, why then are you 5 people pushing the R3 and R4 and making that available to builders? Because some of the gentlemen in this room may take you up and want to build those places. That to me solves your housing problem. Building $200,000 houses and up, these burger flippers and waitresses are not going to be able to afford them anyway. I would think a duplex or a triplex would be the answer.
I actually proposed in the last meeting or meeting before that would be my plan for the affordable housing, would be to have duplexes, triplexes, scattered around the county such that we're not putting massive amounts of people in one section.
Exactly. If you look to your neighbor county to the south, that being Pickens, I think they made a horrible mistake.
Yep.
And they were quite proud of it in the newspaper, but I think they're gonna rue the day they made that decision. And that is on Philadelphia Road. They plan to build 90 units a year for 3 years. If you do the math, as a gentleman said in here, the numbers don't lie. That's 270 townhouses and condos, whatever you want to call them. I think that is going to be a major issue for Pickens County. Now, last time I looked, that was cattle land. I don't think there's sewage out there, and I realize Pickens' problems are not yours, but I would encourage all 5 of you to pay attention to what's being done there, because I think it will be a big mistake.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to say don't come up, but keep it short, please.
Yes, sir, thank you. It was interesting to me that the developers are pushing for these high-density subdivisions when almost in the same breath we were told that a percentage of the lots in the existing approved subdivisions are not even being built on. But yet they'd like you to change your exemption number from 50 to 100 because it's a nice round number. Well, that doesn't change the fact that a percentage of the lots currently approved are not being built on. So I hope that, I appreciate that you'll stick to the 50 as an exemption point, just, to keep it bigger. Thank you.
Thank you.
Going back to the 2006 things, right before then, when all the rules were changed and it made it stiffer to build any duplexes or whatever, I've got a piece of property that I just completed a duplex on, and got it rented for $750 a month for each side, and it's on a half-acre land. I have county water, sewer. I have my own sewer. I put my own sewer pump in to get that. Charlie, thank y'all for passing that line to do that. But so on a half acre with sewer, I was able to put a duplex on it. So what is it changed to now? Up here in the R3, R4, what do we got?
We made it, you've done that since the change. The change was made 2 years ago or a year and a half ago.
It's the same as when you did it.
Yeah.
Before we made that change, you weren't allowed to do it, was the problem.
Right, we made the change because I asked for
Correct.
a year and a half, try to get maybe
Yeah.
2 years.
That's exactly.
But I guess my point is we haven't changed anything since then. It's the same as when we put that in place at that time.
But the builder, builders can't build a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $150,000. It's just not doable. These duplexes I have, they're 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I rent for $750 a piece. I got other rentals that rents for more, but these I get $750. If you want affordable housing, that's what we need to be doing, is that. But if I didn't have, every piece of property in Gilmer County don't have sewer available.
Right.
And I had to put in a $4,500 pump system just to get that. And so
And that's,
for us to do that, to do the affordable housing, we need something to work with too.
yeah, and that's the real challenge on affordable housing.
It's not that we don't want to do it.
Right.
That you can't do it.
I agree. And I'm not being critical that saying that you don't want to do it or any of that. If it's feasible, there'll be builders that'll want to do it. The fact that it's currently not feasible is probably the most difficult thing to overcome when you're talking about affordable housing. And honestly, I don't see a solution short of subsidizing it, and we can't subsidize it.
Government subsidized, and then it's affordable housing.
Thank you, James, for doing that. And Karen, I believe, is that the one that was done in the last 2 years?
Yeah, and the only comment that I would add is that with water and sewer, you can do duplex, triplex, or quadplex per half acre.
make it short and sweet. My name's Diane Stromberger. I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but Times Courier put out a survey, and I tried to get it out through Facebook. And the survey asks, should Gilmer County take measures to stop all construction of housing subdivisions and development? I think, I know for a fact you guys aren't stopping the building because you're wanting to stop the approval of the subdivisions. But anyway, 84% of the people that took the survey say that they want to stop it, and only 16% said no. So right there, the citizens of Gilmer County, looks like there was about 300 votes, which is probably the most votes out of a lot of the surveys that have been done through the Times Courier. Gilmer County is saying that we want to have a slowdown. So I would appreciate if y'all continued with your slowing things down a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't view it as a slowdown. I'm trying to manage a little better. And hopefully we're going to learn a lot, not just the surveys, but to help our planning department. It's good. I think it's going to help there. 6 months is not a reasonable time.
Okay, Karleen, do you have anything else? Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Before y'all consider voting, can you outline your terms with respect to those existing preliminaries that have been submitted?
We cannot hear a word he's saying.
His microphone is not working. He's asked for if we could clarify that the subdivision's already in place and already in process, that we would clarify what we want to do with them.
The ones that are already started, and my motion would only apply to brand new, newly submitted proposals, and not for those that are in the works right now and have been tentatively approved.
One other question in that regard. Those that have been approved, even though, say, phase 5 has not been approved, you're saying that would be exempt because it's been approved.
If it's in the master plan and the first 4 phases are done, we would not say you can't do phase 5.
Okay.
Okay. We good, David?
So the criteria will be that there has to be a master plan that has been submitted, as well as a preliminary phase as well, showing that there's been progress to the subdivision.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
No.
Okay, I couldn't hear. I heard an aye and a no. Did you? Oh, okay. So motion passes. Please tell me y'all don't need an executive session. I'm ready.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, folks. We appreciate it.
I love the whole, yeah, they just, what's the sample size? What's your demographic?
Fun purposes only.
So we messed that around. So what? Tell you what, you walk over there, I'll walk behind you.